Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the CKC channel. I'm your host, FIDE Master Kelvin Klaassen. And welcome to the Reflections second episode. And last week, the first episode, our premiere, we had Canada Master Charles Eigap as our special guest. This evening, we have another special guest right here from South Africa. And I'm sure Dr.Bouah will give us lots to talk about. He will give us the proper introduction as well. But we have our special guest, International Master David Gluckman, on the show with us. And of course, we're going to have some short analysis afterwards of a game that of David's liking. So thanks to the new followers. Welcome to GDK Mongoose. Good evening, GDK. And hi, Coach Kenny Wallenberg. Let's just see. Yeah, there we go. I thought I missed a notification over there. So welcome, guys. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, David Baxter. And GDK Mongoose says Gerard. Okay, thanks, Gerard. Babiki says welcome or hi, exciting stuff as well. So I'm gonna leave it over to Bouah them right now. But before I go, don't forget to press the follow button. If you can't chat, that's to enable the chat, and that will also give you notifications on when we go live and so on. If you can't press the follow button, go back to the homepage of Twitch and just sign up. It's perfectly free and everything. Just sign up quickly, come back to the page and just press the follow button. Okay, so right, guys, I'm gonna show you off to the library, to the Reflection Library. So welcome to London and David. Here we go. Dr. Bouah, it's all yours.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's great having all of you here in the second episode of the Reflection series. Tonight, I've got a special guest. He is South Africa's first international master. His name is David Gluckman, and I've had the privilege of playing against David in many tournaments, and also a bigger privilege and honor to have him as a teammate at a number of events. And tonight we're going to talk about some of those events. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting here tonight in one of the in a room where I've got some of my trophies, and one of the trophies I actually have is a zonal trophy that David and Calvin participated in a tournament in Mozambique in 2008. And it will be interesting to reminisce with David about some of the chicken that we ate there for lunch and supper every single meal. But that was one of the highlights, of course. David, welcome to the show. It's great having you here.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Pleasure. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks. David, tell us, when did you start playing chess?
Yeah, well, I guess it would have been at more or less the time at the Fischer-Spassky match, because I wouldn't remember the exact date, but I mean, I was born 1966, so I would have been 6 in 1972. And one day my grandmother came back and bought a chess set. She didn't play chess, she just bought a chess set home, and then I played with my father, but so I learned to play like then, and I really liked it. I remember analyzing it quite a lot, and I remember my father beating me in the 4-move checkmate a few times, and he would change the move order, and then I would lose again. So I'm sure that actually helped me later on. But I mean, after a month or two, I'd run out of playing the family, so I stopped playing for years because I never knew anyone else played chess. And then I moved schools. I actually started in Port Elizabeth, and then we both of you come from Colvin and Linden, and then moved to Johannesburg. When I moved to Johannesburg School, I started to play, at age 10 in the school team then. So yeah, then I played for the school, and then primary schools for what was Southern Transvaal then at age 12, and then that's when I basically started playing tournaments.
Well, so David, it sounds like we're going to have to thank your grandmother for actually introducing the game there to you and your family. And did it help to have a brother, Jonathan, that also could seemingly play a bit?
Yeah, well, we always had chess around the house, I guess. I mean, also 2 other brothers played as well. I would say probably would help them more than me. I mean, I was the older one, so I'm
Of
not so
course.
sure it helped me that much. But I mean, it meant we had a lot of chess, and we would go on family holidays to the EP Open, that type of thing. So yeah.
Now, David, I must tell you one of the stories. The first time that I came across your name was, in fact, in 1988. And I checked one of my photo albums recently, and I have a photo of you winning this 1988 South African Open. And the picture was with you and a player called Michael Kurland. I don't know if you remember the
Yes,
photo.
I've got that picture as well. That was in one of those EP Heralds or one of those. Yes.
Yes, yes. And how old were you when you won the SA Open in '88? I mean, you were fairly young.
I was 22 at the time, just turned
And
22.
how did you feel being the South African Open champion at that time?
Yeah, no, it was very nice. It was the biggest tournament I'd won until that time. It was a little bit of a surprise. It was like anticlimax because it was 11 round Swiss. And okay, I was playing quite well, but like it was more that the other players were tripping up, like Rubry and Levitz, because I was only, I think, the 5th seed, if I remember, something like that. And then suddenly, I think I beat Hershowitz in the second last round, and then suddenly, and all the other results went my way, and suddenly I was 1.5 points ahead with a round to go. So I won it like with a round to spare kind of thing. So it was just, yeah, it was just a bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting it. I thought, the tournament ends the next day, really. But
well, but David, they do say that good players make their own luck, and that's what you did. The results went your way, and fantastic result at that particular time, because I mean, 1988 was obviously one of those years just before they started to have real negotiations, and then the next time that I met you really for the first time was about somewhere in 1991, and I saw you play for the first time at the Unity tournament when we had the Unity tournament at Bishops. Can you tell us a bit about your tournament then, because the result also went in your favor, if I recall?
Yeah, well, I came tied first actually with my brother and with Dion. And if I remember correctly,
Yes.
everything was tied, not the scores, but the Buchholz, a whole lot. So I actually lost to Dion, which was the first time I'd played him, although, we're the same age and grew up together in Cape Town and had seen each other at university because we both went to UCT. It was the first time I got to see him play, really. And I lost the game to him, so I was behind, but then I beat Mikalakis, and I think maybe he lost to Mikalakis. I'm not sure about that. So we all ended 7.5 out of 9. But I may have met you once before. I'm not sure, maybe it was after. I actually came to PE, because I used to still come often to play my grandparents. I came to your house and played Blitz.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Ewan Kromot, in fact, brought you to my mom's house in PE, and we had some Blitz there as well. So that was correct. That was about somewhere in 91 around there. So no, David, those were great memories, because of course at that time, for many of the audience, you may not know, but South Africa had 2 chess organizations at the time, and David was one of the people that was a firm proponent of unity in chess. So we were very glad. And David, the first Olympiad was 1992 in the Philippines. What did you make of the Olympiad in the Philippines in 92?
No, well, it was a fantastic event. I mean, I'd never been to anything like that before. So, yeah, I mean, what a privilege. I think my great pity is I really was looking forward to meeting Tal, because I think he was in the, what team would it be? Latvian team. Yeah. But he died just before the tournament, so I never got to meet him. But I mean, obviously, you had Kasparov and lots of great players playing, even young Kramnik playing for Russia, who wasn't even a title player at the time. And, well, I just remember, I mean, you would remember as well the humidity, how, you walk 10 meters out of your hotel or the bus and you would just be sweating. So, no, it was a fantastic time. I actually was in Europe at the time, so I didn't fly with the team. I flew separately, and I met up with you guys there. So no, it was a really magical time.
David, you at some stage you had gone to Europe and you had also played in one of those first Saturday tournaments. I believe one of the early South Africans to play in that tournament. Around what time? What year was that you played in the first Saturday?
Yeah, so look, I mean, I completed my studies in 1991 and I decided I wanted to go. I had been working for a few years as well and studying, and I saved up money and I decided I'm going to go try play chess after I finished my studies. So I didn't know how long I was going to go for, but like 6 months to a year. So I actually left in, I think, April 92, and I went to Hungary and played a few tournaments there. I think Malcolm Payne actually recommended it to me. He's got South African connections, so he recommended going to play in Budapest, and it was quite relatively cheap. But I mean, obviously, it's just shortly after the Iron Curtain fell, so I would have been one of the very, very first South Africans playing in Hungary. I played there for about 2 months in a few tournaments because they actually wanted me. They invited me for a few tournaments because it helped to have foreigners for norms, really.
Yeah, of course.
And I had to actually, that's when I got selected for the South African team for the Philippines. I had to go get a visa to go to the Philippines, and I was in Budapest at the time. And I went to the Philippines consulate to try and get a visa, and then they said to me, hey, but you're not allowed to be in this country, you're South African. We don't allow South Africans in Hungary. How are you? Yeah, so it was a whole long discussion, but eventually, eventually I got the visa, and then I went to Germany and flew from Germany with the German team actually to the Philippines. And then I came back to Europe afterwards and played a few more tournaments. I was there about 7 months actually playing.
No, I'm sure that must have been a great experience, because that would have assisted you in playing in the zonals later that year or the next year, because I recall seeing a book saying that David Gluckman playing at the Biel interzonal. Can you tell us a bit about the zonal and the interzonal, because some of those tournaments don't exist nowadays?
Yeah. Look, okay. I mean, 92 was fantastic because I was in Europe and the Philippines there for 7 months. I don't know how many games I played. It could have been like 100 or whatever. And obviously, I got a FIDE rating and things like that. I think my rating was about 2350 FIDE at the time, somewhere around there. And then I came back, and then 93 actually was probably maybe my peak year in a way, because the tournament, it was hectic. We first played a trials tournament at the start of 93 to go to the All Africa Games in Egypt. In fact, Lyndon, you played that one as well.
In February 93, yeah. Yes.
So we played that, and then Nikolakis won, I came second. And then we went and played the African Team Championship. I think we came second in that to Egypt. I could be wrong. I think we came second as well. And then we came back, and immediately after coming back, South Africa organized the zonal tournament. So I participated in that. The other South Africans in that were Dion Solomons and Charles de Villiers. So I played in that, and I won that. And for winning that, you get the IM title. And I got to play in the interzonal in Biel, which was August that year. And then, so that was probably the highlight of my life, because that was the last of the great interzonals. So it was like a 13-round tournament against very, very strong players. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you more about that. But, I mean, the subsequent players that play, they only go to this World Cup, which I don't think is so great, because they go and they play 2 games and then they're out. This was like playing for 2 weeks with the top players in the world, and you're on the same stage. So it was fantastic. And then the only unfortunate point is when I came back from that, because I played all this chess already, then I couldn't get leave to play the SA Close. So that's, or no, SA Trials for the 94 Olympiad. So I had to make myself eligible for that.
But David, that 93 tournament, if I recall correctly, you had beaten one of the Dutch grandmasters, was it not Piquet or Van der Wiel?
Yes. Yeah, so, I mean, I was quite nervous going in that tournament because I think I was 23-30, in fact, at the time. And the next lowest was like 24-30 or so in the whole tournament. There were like 70 players, Swiss tournament, 13 round Swiss. So I was quite nervous. Like in that type of tournament, what it means is you're the bottom by that for everybody's going to try to beat you, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
But luckily, I played Piquet in round 1 and won in round 1. So then, like, people had a bit more respect for me. I could see that. So that helped me. So I managed to get, like, I don't know, 4 points or something like that, which wasn't too bad in that field.
Yeah.
Must say, when I beat Piquet, because he was strong. I mean, he was like number 30 in the world at the time, and I think he was in the top 10 of the world very shortly after that.
Yeah.
And I remember that, like, we were like the very last game to finish. In fact, we like adjourned and came back. It was like 6-7 hour game. And then the game that finished before me was Korschnoy's. And then Korschnoy was like, he liked to stay behind to watch the games, but there was only one game going on. So he was the only person on the stage watching me like winning the game against Piquet, which was a bit nerve-wracking, but also memorable.
Yeah, well, I mean, and Korschner, of course, I'm sure has a history with South Africa, having played in South Africa as well in '79 and in '81 in the Oudemeister series. So, no, but well done on that victory, because recently a friend of mine actually sent me a copy of that game, because he said to me that historically he thinks you're the only South African to have played in an interzonal. And I said, well, I must actually research that, because it could be correct, because I can't recall other interzonals.
Because in fact, before that, the interzonals were even stronger. That was a Swiss. There was a period before when they would have 2 or 3 very strong round robins.
Yeah,
then the wouldn't have been able to qualify.
So you got your IM title at the zonals before the interzonal. Would that be correct then in '93?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was awarded later, but that's when I qualified. Yeah.
No, but well done and congratulations. And hence the reason why we advertise the program to say that you are South Africa's first international master.
Yes. I must say, I'm on a little chat group with some of the older South African players. So Roger Schackers said to me today on that no, there was someone before you, which is Heidenfeld. He says Heidenfeld got the qualifications for the title, but never accepted the award. So, but I don't know if that's true or not. But it probably wouldn't be in his South African period. It definitely would have been like after the South African period if it happened at all.
Yeah, no, for the David, I often have to tell the younger readers that Mr. Wolfgang Heidenfeld is the only South African to have won the SA Closed 8 times, and also represented the Republic of Ireland at the Olympiads back in the day, and in fact his son also played for Ireland. I think his son's name was Mark Heidenfeld as well. And I possess a book in the library here at home called Draw. And in that book, Mr. Heidenfeld has actually given only drawn games, but very exciting drawn games as well.
And he wrote good books. He was a prolific author. He wrote those books were highly regarded.
No, he's certainly. David, the SA Closed 95 that you won was a bit of a strange tournament, in that we had 1 or 2 foreigners also playing in that event. What was your recollection of the 95 SA Closed?
Yeah, it was also slightly strange, because I think it was all part of that like post-unity period where things were happening, settling down for the first time, and you didn't want to exclude players and all that. So it was a bit bigger field. It was a Swiss as well. It was maybe 24 players in the Swiss, something like that, 11 round Swiss. So it was a good tournament. I think you had those 2 or 3, let's say, other Southern Africans in there. It was tight. I mean, I knew I was one of the favorites, and Charles was obviously one of the favorites, but somehow he didn't do well in that tournament. And so then it was Mikalakis, myself, Levitt, vying for the title, and Watu maybe as well. I kind of just got there in the end. In fact, I don't know if you recall, actually, the last round, what happened is I was equal with Mikalakis going into the final round, and I was playing Shabir in the last round, and he didn't turn up. And after an hour, I could have claimed the game, but I didn't know what happened to him, so we just waited a bit, and eventually we got word, no, he had to go to a funeral, so he wasn't going to come on the day, and I could have claimed the game, but I didn't want to win the South African title that way, so I didn't claim the game, and we played the next day. But in that last round, Mikalakis lost his last round, so I knew I only needed now draw, so it was a bit of an advantage. I knew I only needed now draw to win the title. But I got a winning position, or a very strong position, against Shabir. And Shabir knew it as well. So I offered him a draw earlier, and I had a big advantage. And he declined, because he knew he can offer a draw at any stage. But then later on, when he saw it's going downhill, then
No, but congratulations on that as well, because I mean you got an SA Open title, you have an SA Closed title, and thereafter you went to the Olympiad and played board one in Yerevan in Armenia. David, tell us a bit about the Olympiad in '96 in Armenia.
Yeah, in fact, you turned up. That was one of my big shocks of the tournament. We were in a hotel in the middle of nowhere, Yerevan, and suddenly Lyndon rocks up with the Swedish chess school that you were at the
Yes.
time. But no, it's a very strong event. I mean, Kasparov was completely dominant. It was something awesome to watch. I had a very good tournament. So I think I got to board one 6.5 out of 11, and I played quite a few Grandmasters, maybe 4 or 5 Grandmasters and a few IMs as well. So it was a good performance by me. My only one regret from that tournament was that Korchnoi, we played Switzerland, and Korchnoi sat out the game. Well, that's what you would expect. He sat out against South Africa, so I played Pelletier, not Korchnoi. But other than that, it was a great tournament for me. In fact, I just later on I chose the game from there just because I remember that tournament fondly, and we did well. We actually came first in Africa, which I don't know if we've come first in Africa since that time, or if we have not many times since that time.
Yeah. I think South Africa has always been a top performer, but I think you're right. The '96 one may have been the first one as well. But hopefully we'll check on those records of the Olympiad if the team goes next year to Russia, because hopefully if they do get to Russia to play in the Olympiad, then we'll get to revisit some of those Armenia and Russian Olympiads as well. David, one of the things that struck me about the '96 Olympiad was, I think there was one game that Watu played against the IBCA, where Watu played for 130 moves.
Yes.
That was one of my memories of the '96 Olympiad team.
Yes. I remember that game. In fact, I actually, that was one of my good. We often, that's the IBCA, the International Blind Chess Team. We played them quite a few times. They're more or less the same strength as South Africa. We played them quite a few Olympiads, and we've lost a few times. They're quite good. I won a good game there, I remember, in that match against Krylov, I think. And then, Watu played the guy for 130 moves. He had a slight edge, but it was dead drawn. And eventually, I think the guy just said to him, "You're only doing this because I'm a blind guy," and he resigned and left, or something like that. There was a controversy in that game.
Very
cool. Another game as well against Vietnam, but it, the guy was going mad. Why is Watu playing on against me? And eventually, he found a study-like way to win. I can't remember how it worked, but if you find the game against Vietnam, he tricked the guy somehow and won that game as well.
No, I will certainly go in. When we interview Watu one day, we will certainly ask him about those things as well. David, one of the interesting things for me, it always appears that you sort of do well in closed tournaments. What was your next big SA Closed championship that you played? Was it the '98 one, or which was your next one after that?
Well, 95. No, I didn't play 90. The next one I played was 2003, and then I came third in 2003.
Okay.
Afterwards, I did worse. Really.
That's the one that was at Kempton Park.
Yes. In fact, I played you the one round where the lights went out. We had to play a second time. We played half the game and the lights went out, just like now maybe. And we had to start, but we played a different opening the second time, I remember.
Yes. But I think, David, for me, your Olympiad experiences, because you are one of South Africa's key Olympians, because after the '96 Olympiad, you then played for a period of 2000. You played in Turkey. 2002, you played in Slovenia. And in 2004, you played in Calvia in Spain. And I was just remarking when I was doing my research on Sunday afternoon that you have played, and then of course 2014 in Norway. That meant that you have played at Olympiad level for at least 22 years. How did you do it? Can you tell the audience that 22 years you've made it to play at the Olympiad level, which is a tough standard to maintain? How did you maintain it?
Look, there was a 10-year difference between 2004 and 2014, so obviously that's one issue. No, look, I didn't maintain it well. I definitely saw after 2002, I was starting to go down in strength a bit. But yeah, I got to play 6 Olympiads. That's fantastic. I got to play an African Team Championship, the Southern African Zonal as well. And yeah, it is quite good longevity, but it's nowhere near like, I mean, Charles is, winning the Western Province tournaments 40 years apart, so I think there are quite a few ahead of me there. But yeah, I'm 2014. I think I'm the oldest to play for South Africa, at least in the post-apartheid era. So that's a small, really. Yeah.
And if you look back on your career, what would you consider would be your highlights in the Olympiads? I mean, who were the top players that you played against that you want to tell us a bit about that was interesting at the Olympiad level?
You see, the problem with South Africa is we only really, often we would only play the very strong teams in round 1, and then you're playing good grandmasters, but not the world-class players afterwards. So it's round 1 in general. But no, look, I would have played quite a lot of, let's say, 2,500 grandmasters, maybe 2,600 grandmasters in that time. No, I can't remember. I think like maybe, let's say, in 2014, the match against the USA was quite memorable. I was playing
Sam Shankland. Yeah.
I actually was doing quite well. I mean, I was even a pawn up in the end game and kind of went wrong slightly, but I was holding that quite well. And then, I don't know, there were, I mean, I don't know how many strong grandmasters I beat in the Olympiads. I would have drawn with like maybe Rogers from Australia, and there was a guy from Vietnam, and yeah, I mean, quite a few draws against grandmasters, but I'm not sure. I can't remember if I beat any grandmasters in the Olympiad. Actually, I might be wrong.
But David, is it true that at one of the tournaments you played in Europe, you beat Grandmaster Gurovic in less than 20 moves?
Yeah, yeah. I think I won in 18 moves, but I mean, to be honest, if you win a game quickly, it normally means your opponent played badly, not that you played so fantastically. So, but that was in Biel. So that was in 92, just after the Olympiad. And I think I just got my first rating in the mid 2300s. So I played him in round 2. So I'd won round 1, and then I played him in round 2 and won. And then he thought I was a Russian because he's ex-Russian. He was in the States, and then obviously a lot of players would come out having ratings and were strong were Russian at that time, and no one knew they were like Kramnik in the Olympiad. So he started talking to me in Russian after the game. But then I told him, no, I'm from Africa. Sorry.
David, one of the things that struck me about the 2013 SA Closed was you came second in that tournament behind Donovan van den Heever and qualified for the Olympia team directly. And I mean, it was a great result for you. I mean, for the SA Closed to come second with the likes of Daniel Cordery and others participating in that particular event. What was your secret in the 2013 SA Closed?
Yeah, well, maybe I'll just, for historical purposes, although it was the 2013 SA Closed, it was only played in January 2014, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's correct, yes.
But, my secret was, I liked, when I saw that the Olympiad was going to be in Norway, I thought that's an interesting place. I'd like to go there. So I actually paid Watu to coach me for a couple of months. I don't know if people know that.
No.
I trained for that particular SA Closed, and I hadn't done that for a long time. So, and I don't think my score flattered me because, I mean, let's say against Calvin, I was slightly better, pawn up. I mean, nothing fantastic. Against Charles, I was pushing for a win.
But didn't you beat Cordery in round 1 or something like that?
Yeah. In round from Rensburg, I could have also, I mean, that was the last round, I was a pawn up, but I agreed to draw because I wanted to make the Olympia team rather than win the SA Closed. The Cordery game, that was I mean, he's obviously a good player. But it was I've got a reasonable record. I think I'm maybe +1 against Daniel, something like that over the years. But I kind of surprised him with one move. At some stage, I think I might have played E5 in a French, and he didn't expect it, and he didn't react well. And I think somehow Daniel's a very strong player, but what he can be is he can be temperamental. And I think he might have just lost focus for a few moves. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised actually in retrospect. It might have even cost him 2 points because he actually lost the second round as well because he was maybe upset about it. I don't know. But So that was,
David,
Batu gave me a bit of confidence. Let's put it that way with his coaching.
Well, but we're glad to hear that now. Now the key question that I would want to know is, so how do you train as an IM? Because here you have Watu is also IM, plays more than you. Now, how do you go about? How do you tell the audience how can they improve their chess? And obviously, in your case, you improved fantastically because you were able to hold your own with these young guys at the SA close, come second, and go to the Olympiad the next year. What would you give some advice in terms of training for younger players?
Yeah, look, actually, I think Magnus Carlsen said something. He was asking an interview, and he said, "No, you can learn from everything." So I actually subscribe to that. Whatever you can learn from so many things. I think, look, the most important is to play a lot and to analyze your games. I would say those are probably the most important of all. In that case, for me, it was like, for years, I always stayed active. I never retired, but I was only playing like 1 or 2 tournaments a year. So it's difficult to stay in shape that way. So for me, the training would have been different than for other players. For me, it was like getting some tactical puzzles, just getting sharper than I would normally be. But I think also what gave me a bit of confidence, because what I realized is, okay, no, he doesn't understand anything more than I do. So I can analyze with him, and we are on an equal as far as understanding is concerned. He's obviously stronger than me tactically and opening wise, probably, but definitely, in fact. But my positional understanding is as good. So that gave me a bit of confidence. And I think confidence is also very important. I think you see it with Carlsen really a lot. I mean, a lot of his wins, and maybe Kasparov as well, a lot of their wins are just from just really believing that they're better and they're going to win. And more than often than not, that gives you a better result than if you just think I'm equal with this person.
Yeah. No, thanks, David. I mean, that's very important. I just want to then just ask something. David,
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Thanks. Okay. Okay. Do you want to take the questions, Calvin, from the readers, listeners?
Okay. Thanks, Lyndon. Thanks, David. I just want to. There's a couple of questions that's way at the top of the chat box that I just want to get your attention to. So we'll start at the top. Let's see, where can I start? Okay, so the first question that I can remember in the chat box is from Earl. Earl says, I.M. Gluckman probably had some good games in Port Elizabeth against Johan Kromhout, ? So, David, did you have any good games against Johan?
Yeah, so like I said, I spent some years when I was very young in Port Elizabeth, and my father's family are from Port Elizabeth. So we often used to visit, and my grandparents lived there. So when I used to go to Port Elizabeth, I'm talking when I'm in my 20s or so, I would phone Ewan and we'd get together and play Blitz, and we often played lots of Blitz sessions. I don't think we played that many over-the-board proper tournament games, maybe 2 or 3 only. I don't think we played many more than that. But we played lots of Blitz, and I must say, I didn't find Ewan that easy at Blitz, especially because he knows his openings well, and he's got his pet lines, and these pet lines are not so easy to break down. So I think when I was at my best, I was beating him in those Blitz games, but I wasn't winning by much, really. And I think I played him a few years ago. I went to PE for business, and I called him up and we played some blitz, and I think he beat me that night. So yeah, he's a tough player, and we've played in a couple of Olympiads as well together. And yeah, Ewan's very passionate, and he definitely, yeah, he studies chess hard. He's dedicated, and he knows a lot. So, yeah, I rate Ewan highly. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, David. And then there's a couple more questions here. Just one statement I want to read here that's interesting as well from Dr. Queenie. Dr. Queenie says many of the top players in SA knows Auntie Ruby's house and have spent some time playing chess there. It's something a lot of us have in common. Precious. Thanks, Dr. Queenie. And then the next question is from ML1808. David, did you earn any GM norms, and where was that?
No, I never came close to a GM norm, and I didn't even win many IM norms. Maybe I won a couple of IM norms. I mean, I really won it from the zonal. I actually would have won the IM title at the 2000 zonal as well, because I came second there as well. But no, I never came close to a GM norm. That would be another point or 2 points, which is quite tough. And also, you've got to play. In the tournaments I was playing, you'd have to play a lot more GMs than a lot of them.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks. And then from Babiki over here, Babiki says, hi, David. How does it feel competing in the same tournaments as your son?
Yeah, no, that doesn't bother me too much. Look, I haven't competed that many because I haven't been playing that much in kind of recent years, but occasionally we've played each other a few times. We've played at least 2 tournament games in proper tournaments and sometimes in rapid and blitz as well. And what I can say is I don't give him anything. He's got to try to win himself. So I feel nothing of trying to beat him. So, and I did win our 2 over the board games. Yeah, I'm sure he'll go ahead of me in due course, but I don't really. Yeah, it's not an issue to me really. Obviously, it is a bit of a distraction because when you're a parent and you're playing, it's like a bit harder because now you're playing and you're also looking at someone's game and that type of thing. So
yes.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. And then next question is from Jody. Jody is asking here, or it might overlap with one of your answers early on, but Jody says, as you get older, does your preparation time and training methods change? And what advice would you give players during the different stages or phases of their lives?
Yeah, it's difficult to answer because chess has changed so much since I was young. I mean, preparation is completely different today to what it was 20, 25 years ago. In fact, what I find is like some of the openings that I play are just no good at today's, with computer preparation. So, for example, like the Alakan, Willenden, you play it as well. So I would know 20 years ago, you can go, now you're playing a Swiss tournament, the guy's got a few hours, he's not going to find something totally new in a few hours. It's a good practical choice to play in a Swiss tournament. Today, what I find is virtually every single player they can go through, they can find the line quite quickly. There's not that much black can do to deviate, and they can have a slight pleasant advantage. And there's actually nothing you can really do about it. So what it actually means is I would have to change my openings completely. And I know that, but I just haven't had the time to invest to think about doing it. So I end up with these rubbish positions so many times straight out of the opening. But no, look, at the top level today, the level of preparation is just crazy. I don't really like it, actually. I think it takes personally away a lot of skill. I like this MRL tournaments and those where you can fish a random, where you can get out of so much preparation. But okay, that's just me. I know, other people love the preparation and see it as a big advantage. Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot. And I've just got 3 more very short questions here. I'll try to wrap it up here. So the next one is also from ML. What is your expectations Okay, so it's slightly off topic, but they probably want to hear your thoughts. So, what is your expectations of our new SA champion, Daniel Barish?
Well, look, I've known Daniel for a long time. He used to come to my house, and we used to, like, I wouldn't say I coached him, but we would play through games and that. When, I was trying to help him along maybe 8, 9 years ago, 7, 8, 9 years ago, something like that. So, he's a good player. He studies hard, he works hard as far as I can see. He knows his openings, or he's well prepared. So yeah, I think he can do well. Look, it's difficult for a player like that, because I think he was under 10 champion of South Africa at age 7, 8, 9, 3 years in a row, something like that. So if he was in Europe throughout, he would have been much stronger than he is now. You're limited because you don't get so many opportunities playing in South Africa. So I think it's going to be tough for him to get the GM title, to be honest. But he can definitely become an international master, and even a strong international master if he decides to do it. I would say maybe after his studies he should do that. He should probably. I know he's got I think he was born in the Czech Republic, so he's got family there. So if he can base himself there for 6 months, a year, he can become a strong international master, I would say. I think a GM will be tough for him to become.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, David. And then Monster Frick here is asking, David, did lockdown affect your chess in any way, positive or negative?
Not so much the last month, but before that, I started playing league chess because Calvin, you asked me to play these tournaments, and I played a few tournaments. So I actually was playing a bit more than I ever have, but blitz, really. And then where it did affect my chess is, like, some of these old players from when I was young, who are older than me, they want to get together, and, like, we've been playing a bit on league chess with people like Mark Rubery and Timothy Kett and Victor Struga. These are players from the past, and Roger Shakas, and even like David Friedgood and Charles and things like that. So I've had opportunity to get in touch with people that I hadn't been in touch with for decades in sometimes, or ever in sometimes, like a Friedgood would be like ever. I'm hoping, I would like to play more blitz online. I just haven't got around to it. Other than that, it doesn't affect it too much. But I don't think I would have played that many tournaments between lockdown. Maybe I would have played the league. That's probably about all anyway.
All right. All right, thanks.
I've been watching, like, let's say, what I do enjoy is on YouTube watching, like, these Carlson tournaments and that type of thing, which has been quite fun, actually.
All right, thanks, David. And then just the last funny question here. There's a statement here also by Isvan, the final one in the chat box says, Isvan says, I believe Isvan is also from your chess club, Cape Town Chess Club, and he says, congratulations on your win against GM Christian Bouah in the World Open last year, I believe. Is that correct, David?
Yeah. So I played the World Open last year, and I won a good game against him. He's like about 2650, so that was I played very well in that game, I would say. I didn't choose it as a game because it's a bit too long.
Yes.
But that happens from time to time. Like, I know I can beat, okay, that's a strong player, but I know I can beat the 24, 2500s every now and again. The problem is not to, you can beat them every now and again. The problem is consistently, and obviously you're losing way more than you're winning. But I know on a good day I can do that.
All right, and then just a final question, and then I'm done here, Lyndon. So the last one is from Johannes Mabusela. Rapela is asking, it's a double question here. Are you still the best player in the house? And how did you install the love of the game into Paul? That's from Mabusela over there.
I don't know. I think Paul and I are more or less equal. We do play a little bit. We're more or less equal, I would say. We're playing blitz, so it's difficult to really assess. I'm sure he'll get better than me. What I can say is we think very differently. So if I look at his games, like often if I walk past, like I'll look and I'll think of, I've got these 2 or 3 candidate moves I will think of, and then he plays something completely different that I wouldn't have even entered in my frame ever. And I think he looks at positions much more dynamically than I do. I look at much more static features. So they're pros and cons, but I will just dismiss a lot of moves on the basis that the pawn structure is bad or whatever, or the king safety. And Paul is like very much, okay, the tactics work, he'll do it. So we definitely think very differently. Yeah. I don't think I instilled, too much. I mean, he's a bit slack as well, to be honest. He's never done any studying. He just comes to play and all that. I think his advantage was he grew up with me and had played a lot, really. Yeah.
All right, thanks, David. Over to you, Lyndon.
Thanks, Calvin. So thanks, David, for answering the questions from the chat room. And I've just got one more comment before we go over to the game. David, one of my more enduring memories was your final game against Aderito Pedro from Angola in Mozambique in that Zone 4.3 team championship. And what was interesting about the game is that you had all 8 pawns left at the end of the game. Just can you tell us a bit about what happened in that game?
Oh, that was that was an interesting game. More amusing, really, but it was a good. I think it was a queen pawn game of some sort, and eventually, but the pawn structure got very locked, etc. And then eventually there were exchange of pieces, and then there were just 8 pawns like locked in a chain with 2 rooks behind. And basically, you couldn't do anything. It was like, there was no way for any player to do anything. So it's an interesting and funny position rather than a great game. It was quite a good game, I think, but it was always quite equal. And then we both saw the opportunity to just block it completely, which would mean it would be slightly beautiful, which was quite a nice way to end the game. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. No. Also, David just needed a draw to secure the win for South Africa in that team championship, and that's what David did there. Because of course, David, you played on board 1 for South Africa in 2008 at that event as well. So well done on that. But David, thank you very much for sharing some of your views and being so forthright in your opinions, which is what we're about. We want to hear what the top players are thinking. So thank you very much for that. David, in the last sort of 10 to 15 minutes, we would like to see that game from the one of the Olympiads that you were telling us about. So we're going to ask Calvin just to put the board up now, and then you can tell us about your opponent and describe the game and take us through there. So over to you, Calvin and David.
All right, guys, let's go over to the chessboard. We've got another question here in the chat box, but we're going to go to the chessboard so long, and then David can just help us with that along the way. Okay, so we're at the chessboard. So, David, what game are we looking at? And then after you tell us that, I'll just give you the last question from the viewers.
Okay, so Lynn asked me to choose a game, so I didn't really go look at all my games. I just thought back of what's not too long a game, and it's against a decent player, and I was thought there were things to talk about in the game. So this is a game from the 1996 Olympiad. It's against Alberto David, who's from he was from Luxembourg at the time, but now he plays for Italy, or he's Italian now. So at the time he was an IM. He was about 2450 at the time, but now he's about 2550, and he's been over 2600, I saw as well, which actually makes me think that there probably has been rating inflation, because, I mean, if you're 2450 at age 25 and you're 2550 at age 50, it doesn't sound right. Otherwise,
it sounds right. Sorry, David, it sounds right to me. I'm looking forward to get to that age thing.
Yeah. But I don't think it's a great game. It's not even the best game at that event. But it was I just remember the game, and there were a few things I remember about it. So the one thing, so I'll take you through it. So the one thing, maybe I'll just show you are you seeing the moves there?
Yes, we're seeing the moves. Yeah, you can continue.
So maybe just the first comment, what I noticed, I don't know if it happens to other players, but it happens to me, especially when I'm white and I'm playing these strong players, is that I reckon they probably like look at my games and realize I can play quite a few, like I can play E4, D4, C4, knight F3. So they probably don't want to spend too much time preparing, and then they just end up, but they don't want to go into one of their main lines that I can choose one line and prepare against. So they end up playing these slut side lines. And often I get a pleasant position, but then I normally mess it up somewhere along the way. But I realize it's like a strategy of these strong GMs. They just play something that they know is safe, but and hopefully they'll outplay me in the long run, even if they're slightly inferior. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
So I don't think there's too much to talk over here. It's a slightly offbeat line, but nothing too fantastic. I mean, I can see the computer evaluation. I don't know how strong it is or whatever, but
definitely a sideline, David. Would you mind just muting your laptop, because we're having a double bang on the
yes.
the board?
Fine, I will.
And Lyndon, you can move slightly to your right so that we can have you in the view. There we go. Then you're in.
Okay. Can you still hear me though?
Yes, I can hear you.
I don't know how to mute it without
not
being able to hear you.
Okay, that's fine. I think I'm gonna mute my leeches. I'll see if I can mute my leeches. Then it's fine.
I just turned my volume a little bit down.
Okay, that's fine. It's perfect.
So, okay. So what I remember, I'll just highlight a few things about this game. But okay, I remember I'm getting a pleasant position, but it's nothing fantastic. In fact, the computer I can see is saying slightly better for black already, or comfortable for black.
Okay, that's strange to me.
But I mean, okay, obviously, I don't think either of us knew this theory. Probably it's just plain moves and get in a decent position that you can attack. This is not really the bit I want to highlight too much. But, okay. Now this is an example, actually, just this position. So you asked me a little bit about my preparation. So what I try to do is I try to look at the players' games a little bit and try to figure out what would be uncomfortable for them. And I don't know if I'm right, but I normally think I can play most type of positions. So I'm quite happy to play a different position if I think it'll be uncomfortable for the other player. Mm-hmm. So I remember very clearly this guy specifically is that I thought I noticed slight weaknesses when he gets attacked.
Okay.
I'm sure he's probably ironed them out. Maybe that's why he improved his rating. But so I decided in advance I must attack. Well, whatever happens, I have to attack against this player. This is when he's weak. So that's why I played G4.
Okay, David. So I just want to ask you here, when it comes to this position before G4, like I fully understand what you're saying, how you came to the conclusion of this strategy. But I looked at this game briefly, and I saw, okay, this is a beautiful setup. It's so familiar to the Sicilian setups with the pawns on E4 and F4. Is there any other strategy that comes to mind, or is that maybe just the best way to go in this position?
Yeah, I think there may be some of that. It's not obvious what the other ways to go really to attack the structure is really. So I mean, the other way to go I could think about is maybe to play E5 and then F5 and try to take control of the E4 square. But the problem is he's going to play E4 himself and give up the pawn back.
So you're pretty much, it's almost like it's working in your favor. The strategy that you kind of decided to do is you kind of obliged to go that route anyway in this position.
Yes,
so
yes,
G4 makes sense.
Look, I'm not like I can remember exactly how I was thinking 4 years later, but I do remember. That's why I chose this game. But I remember I decided I've got to attack against this guy. That's where he's weak, and I'm going to do that even if it's not the best move.
Okay, cool.
And that's why, as well, in that same vein, that's why I play H4. And that's what I remembered about this game a little bit, is I don't know how often I've had the structure of E4, F4, G4, H4, maybe never else. And I remember Mikalaka saying to me, like, oh, H4, your opponent must be scared or something like that. So, but okay, I think he plays it. Yeah, tries to undermine. It's probably fine. And then I don't think G5 is going to do anything. He's going to put his knight to G4, and I'll never easily get through there. So I must try break it up a bit. Okay. e4 is going to fall, but I must just continue to attack, obviously.
Yeah.
So I realize I'm giving up a pawn here. Okay. And now I take here. And now what I remember actually about this game, I mean, it's a lot later, but I do remember there were just so many variations. I just couldn't calculate everything. So it looks easy if you just got a computer saying that's the best move. But when you're now over the board trying to figure out these variations, it becomes very confusing because it's not only I'm attacking, he's also attacking me. My king is also very open over here.
Yes.
And maybe just the one tactic just to watch out for later is I always have to watch this queen b6 check, I remember, with lots of threats. But you'll notice he's got a pawn on c5. So it's not a pawn on d6, protecting a pawn on d6. So there's no way of blocking with knight c5. And that's actually an important tactic for later. And I'll just show you something why that's important later, because he plays d5. Okay, I don't know why I bring the rook back. Maybe just
Queen h2 was being threatened.
Yes, mate.
Okay, and now he makes a blunder. Yeah, he goes rook e5, and the computer immediately goes queen f8 wins, which I actually saw at the time. Queen f8, king h7, rook f7. But the reason I dismissed it is queen b6 with all the counterplay, but I didn't realize that the queen on f8 protects the knight on c5. So
can we just show the viewers over there? So queen f8 check, king h7, and queen f7 knocking the queen and threatening everything here on g7.
Yes.
And you say queen b6 check. The queen on f8 actually covers the c5 square. Wow.
Yes.
Thanks to Chess Academy South Africa for following. Welcome to the show. So yeah, so you just missed that c5 square, the queen covering it.
Yes. But what I'm trying to say is, to me, this is an example of a blunder or a blind spot. Is that it's very easy to do that because it's not, you're not visualizing in advance that your knight goes to c5 to protect it. Yes. And it's the queen moving backwards. A queen moving backwards is a very difficult tactic for a human to appreciate. So yes. I think it's very easy to miss.
Okay.
And in fact, that's the reason I play c3. So I can now block the check with knight d4, besides getting the knights in the game.
Okay, makes sense.
So I'm saying it's very easy to look at it, and I think a lot of players do that these days. They just do computer evaluation, plus 10. Obviously, that's easy, but humans don't think like that.
Yes.
So okay, now he sees it, so he gets out of that. But I bring the knight forward. And look, okay, now we were getting into big time trouble already. So now the rest of the game is quite a bit of time trouble, and there are just so many tactics. So I don't think it's definitely not a fantastic game by any means. I would have lots of technical games I can show that would be much more accurate than this. But
sorry, David. Tell me.
It shows a few interesting things. I just remember being completely confused.
Sorry, David, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, so those days there were no increment as well, I'm assuming, 1996.
Yes, there were no increment.
So time trouble means time trouble.
Yes.
Yes, it would have been 40 moves in 2 hours, 2.5 hours probably, and then 20 per hour thereafter. Yeah.
All right, thanks.
But we've probably got mild time trouble. We've probably got 3 or 4 minutes left to move 40 or whatever. So not like your flag is falling, but you got to get a move on, and it's almost impossible to calculate all the possibilities.
All right.
So okay, I play knight here. Now, actually, when I was typing this game in out of interest, just to show you how Paul thinks differently to me, he just said immediately knight takes g7 wins, like within 1 second, which is correct. Because there's this variation, knight takes g7, queen f8, king h7, rook f7, and there's really nothing to be done. But, when you're confused, there's so many possibilities of checks, etc. So maybe that's a slight example of what, but also I think the issues are, you see something that looks strong and you try to play it. So, because you don't have time to look at many different variations. So probably the candidate move that came into my mind was knight g5 with lots of possibilities of knight f7 and threatening the rook on e4 and the rook on h4 is on pre, but now I see the computer puts it as equal again. So, okay, we just progress. So this is a bit of a mad time scramble now. And still equal according to the computer. See, obviously I wouldn't have known this at the time or even after the game. I'm only seeing this now.
There's chaos on the
but
board.
I just knew it was total madness.
Yeah.
But I think he went wrong somewhere over here. Is that a rook f1? Okay, now it's already advantage. I've got to be careful because if I haven't calculated this, I could easily drop a rook myself or something like that with a discovered check and hitting, with the knight and rook takes on g2. And he tries it, but this is a losing move, yeah. And now it's a routine win after this because he's losing f5 and I'm hitting g2. Yeah, and I'm threatening rook d8 mate as well, kind of winning the bishop.
Okay.
So, but now there's nothing to it. Now I hadn't quite made the time control, but now it's just nothing to go through. It's just routine now. Yeah, I won't even go through the rest.
All right.
It's
okay.
Trivial.
So this I like the way you played this attack here, David. I looked at it and I'm thinking, wow, I haven't seen you play like this. Actually, I haven't seen you play like this, but of course you were at some stage my age as well and younger. So this is a
I
nice
think
game.
also Calvin on that score is like over the years, if you haven't done any preparation and you're only playing a tournament or two a year, then you start to play more technically because it's like safer to play that way as opposed to. But actually, when I was younger, this would be more my style than technical.
Okay, so to the viewers out there, maybe you should check out David's games where he was a bit younger. Maybe you'll learn how to attack a bit better. And just to conclude here with the final question here, so that King Ulster doesn't feel left out here. We've got one last question here. Chess Academy South Africa as well just says good evening, Dr. Bouah and Honorable. I am David Gluckman. But King Ulster says last question. When did David determine his actual playing style? Pre-IM or after? So that's a question there from King Ulster.
Look, it varied. I think when I started to play, and as a teenager, I would have been more like a tactical type of player and lots of attacking and quite a lot of sacrificing as well. And then a book I read maybe when I was in my late teens was Bent Larson's My Selected Games. Because before that, I'd read Alekine's books of 1923 to 1937. That influenced me quite a lot.
Okay.
And afterwards, I read Larson's Selected Games. And he's quite technical, and he had quite a lot of these sidelines with A4. And I learned these things like playing Bishop B5 and A4 and things like that from him. And I also read Botvinnik's Selected Games. So I think those changed my style. And then what was happening as well is more or less that time, so that would be when I'm about 20, I would be starting to win the tournaments in South Africa quite a lot. And then you start to play differently, or I did anyway, because what I realized is now I'm stronger than the other players almost all the time. If I play technically, I will win a very high percentage of the games with no risk. If I play like I was playing before, then every now and again I'll blunder and make it. So kind of, I don't think it's actually good for your chess, to be honest. And that's the problem of playing in South Africa, not, because I only got to play overseas when I was 26 or so, when I talked about 92. But that period, 20 to 25 or whatever, now you're 22, 50 or whatever, you play in the local Swisses, you will beat most of the players just to play technically. Yeah. And it starts change your style. And I don't know, Calvin, you might even find the same. I wouldn't be surprised.
Definitely.
But it's actually very bad for your long-term development. But it's difficult to do if you don't have enough strong players forcing you to be more creative. And you just run out. All the South Africans end up running out of players over here. That is the problem we all face, actually.
Yeah, no, David, I can definitely agree. Okay, I still need to gain more experience. But I mean, I was once an E4 player only. And over the years, I've just been tempted by these more solid routes of playing chess with D4, knight F3, and so on. Yeah, no, but thanks a lot for this game as well, David. They say in the chat box, exciting game as well. And another question here, these guys are throwing in last minute questions, so I'm just trying to squeeze in more questions for everybody's sake. Um, yeah, so Chess Academy South Africa is of course Kenny Wallenberg. He just noted over there. Um, so Kenny's got a question for you, David. Hi, David. What would you suggest for our juniors and training systems? You see, and he just added there in order to improve systematically. So that's from Kenny
Yeah.
Wallenberg.
Um, Look, you're actually asking the wrong person. Kenny would know better than me and some of the other coaches, because there's a lot. I definitely know there's a lot of software out there and training material that obviously there wouldn't have been in my day. So I think there's a huge amount that young players can use, and obviously particularly with a good coach. But I don't know. To me, nothing replaces playing through your own games. I still think that has to be number one of all. Um, but like I said, I think you can learn from anything. But like Kenny, I don't know enough about all the software programs and training devices, etc., that are available these days to comment. So I'm maybe a bit out of date. I'm not the right person to ask.
All right, thanks, David. Lyndon, what's your thoughts on the game and about the whole show?
No, thank you very much, Calvin and David. A very exciting game against a top player as well, because we know that he still plays for Italy at the top level. And of course, David, you played against the man, as it were, because as you said, you identified some attacking weaknesses in his armor, and you went all out G4, H4, and I mean it's exciting, and I think that also shows the maturity level that you had, because you were prepared to go all out and give it your best. And that's what I say to all the players. If you're going to be playing one of these top guys, go all out, because there's no point in playing a safe line and just telling everybody you do. But here you went all out. And so well done on in that regard. And as you said, Queen F8 is easy to overlook that the Queen is defending C5, but a very enjoyable game. But I think, David, from my side, what is even more remarkable is that your career stretched from the 80s, winning the SA Open 88, going into the 90s, winning the closed, and going into the Olympiads, and then continuing with that right up until 2014, playing at the Olympiad level. So for me, Calvin, David Gluckman is a true legend of South African chess, and the fact that he's been playing at the top level for over 30 years is remarkable. And David, from my side, thank you very much for all the games and what you have brought to South African chess as well, and we salute you for that. Thanks, David. Thanks, Calvin.
All right.
Yeah, thanks. It's a pleasure.
All right, guys. And then, yeah, before I say my final thanks, London, who are we seeing next week? Can you give us a hint on who we're seeing next week?
So next week we're having the big daddy of the Wallenberg family, Roland Wallenberg, will be our special guest next week. So everybody, please tune in to hear what Roland Wallenberg's views on chess and coaching and playing and being a founder member of Steinitz is. So let's look forward to next week, Tuesday at 7 p.m.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Lennon. And that's like I've let me just reiterate to everybody, this is a weekly show, so this is now every Tuesday, 7 p.m. We do have someone special on the Reflection Show. Yeah, so from my side, I'm quite happy and quite blessed to have the both of you on my show. Thanks a lot, Lyndon, for hosting the show. Thanks a lot, David, as well. I think it's something special to have the both of you on here. Me being from Somerset East, a small town, and then eventually coming to Cape Town, I eventually saw these great players that you guys see here, and I didn't even know how great they were at the time. But if you have stayed in Cape Town for a while and you've started playing against these giants of Cape Town and SA, then you know that this was quite a nice show. And yeah, like Lennon says, they were true legends of SA chess. And I see Charles Eigap has just started following our last week's special guest. Thanks to everybody for following, by the way. So yeah, I've also been privileged to play both of you, and it's been absolutely fun, and I've learned a lot from both of these players. These are the guys you need to look up to, everybody out there. You have to look at the older generation and look at their games and see how kind of go through their footsteps and see what they did to get there. So once again, thanks a lot, David. Thanks, Lyndon. And Yeah, I think that's all from me. Let me just check last comments in the chat. If anyone has something else to say, please feel free. But let me just check the last comments before we call it a night. So let's.
So can I say one other thing?
Of course.
What I meant to say.
Of
But
course.
Lyndon asked me before. He said, like, when you became the first IM, how did you feel? And I didn't answer him. But actually, I felt very disappointed. And you know why? Because I had to be Charles in that last round, and I knew he deserved it more than me. And what's more, I was losing, and he fell for a very cheap trap. And actually, I felt very bad about it, to be honest.
Happens.
It happens, yes. Chess
But I mean, Charles deserved, what I'm saying is Charles and many other players deserved it way more than me.
You deserved it too, David.
All right, thanks, David. And then now the final comments in the chat box. Chess Academy SA says, thanks, Lyndon, for inviting to the show. Nice hearing from SA First IM. And Master Frick says, thank you, David, for your time and reflecting back onto your chess career. King also says, great stuff. Thanks, David, Lyndon, and Calvin. Istvan says, many thanks to the commentators. Chess Academy says, Kenny says, nice will be here for Coach Roland. And Charles Eichap says, great and crazy game. Thanks, David. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. David, can you just move slightly to your left so that we can get a final proper shot of you for the end of the show? There we go. So yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you for following. See you guys next week. Thanks and cheers, Lyndon and David. Enjoy your evening.
Thanks, you guys. See you next week.
Cheers.